and welcome back to the What Country Is podcast with Sarah Pierson. I am Sarah Pierson. Season 2, we're here. First episode. We made it. I genuinely didn't think I was going to get here. It's been a while, and I'm sure that you guys have lots of questions about what I've been up to, where I've been. Those will all be answered in this podcast. Just for those who are like a fan of the country content, this episode is going to be mostly focused around me and what I've been up to and the things that I've been thinking about in these last few months. So if you are a fan of the country talks and analysis and stuff like that, that is coming next week. But this week it's all about me. So feel free to skip this episode and wait until next week. But I would, if you're at least slightly interested into what I've been up to, hang out, grab a drink. We'll chill. So for those that are now still here wondering about me, I'm fine. I'm doing great. Well, we'll get into it. So you probably are wondering where I've been, what I've been up to, why I've been gone, and those will all be answered. So the main reason that I left was, I think I had been talking about this before. I haven't really listened to the episodes that I released before, just because I don't really want to hear the cringy stuff that I've been up to before now. And so I think I did talk about this before I left, which was my brother's wedding, which so exciting. I love weddings. I hope everyone loves weddings because, drinking and dancing and wearing fancy outfits is just really fun, I guess, to me. And so I left for that in the beginning of June, and I don't remember exactly what day it was. I think the wedding was on the 4th, and so we went out on the 3rd of June. But I went back a whole week before the wedding to help out my mom making the party favors or the wedding favors. And so I had a plan, and I wanted to stick to the plan. The plan was go home the week before the wedding, go to the wedding, stay in my hometown for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And then come back to Memphis. Now, that obviously did not happen because I've been gone for a while. And if you follow my Instagram, you've known that I've been home. And I've been living it up in North Creek. So we'll get into all of that. But I wanted to talk about the wedding because it was a super fun time. And it was probably the only event that I went to this year. So why not talk about it? Let's start by saying that my brother and his new wife, Katie, know how to throw a party and also just a whole weekend of parties. It started with the rehearsal dinner and then the wedding and then another day full of games and fun and music at the barbecue at their house. And so it was just 3 days of drinking, which, as a Pierson, I can do relatively easily. I was very tired at the end of the weekend, but such is life when you come from a family of partiers like myself. Anyway, so I'm already home at this point, and we get in my car, because my car is the biggest, and we drive from basically the same route that I took from Memphis to North Creek. We took from North Creek to Cleveland. And so 8 hours in the car with the fam. I get car sick really easily, so I rode in the front. Thanks, Mom, for trading spots with me. I was in charge of the music. We jammed out. We had the Supernatural cross-country playlist moment that I love. We all sang. We played games. Good times. The drive there was aggravating. I think everyone was a little irritated. And so we get there. We left the 3rd, early in the morning. And so we got there right before we were supposed to go to the rehearsal dinner. And so my mom and I got out of the car, like got all dressed up and did our hair and our makeup and stuff. And then we went and met up with everyone. And we went to this really cool restaurant, brewery, bar place that had like this very industrial feel to it. There was lots of hardwood and metal. And it was really cool. I'd never been to anywhere quite like this. And our event was like in the basement, but they had like a whole restaurant and bar upstairs, which was super cool. And so we go down to the basement and there's all these like barrels and brewery machines. I'm not too familiar with what they're called, but I think you can get the gist of what I'm getting at, which is it was a brewery in the city, in a very industrial place. And the food was incredible. It was the best food of the whole weekend, in my humble opinion. Now, the weekend did finish with a taco truck, which was also good, but I don't think it's comparable to a whole dinner. And we drank they didn't have any like domestic beers or anything. So because it was a brewery, we drank what they had, and I drank like a regular old Pilsner, and it was fine. We had pitchers and pitchers of beer on our table, and we just kept drinking. And then the food came, and we're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. And I like stuffed my face. I was like, if I'm going to eat free food, I'm going to eat all of it. And I don't know if it was prime rib or something, but there was like a bunch of different options. But the one thing that stood out as like absolutely phenomenal was the Brussels sprouts. And you know they had to be good because they're Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts, but these Brussels sprouts, great. Wonderful. So great that I still remember them and I'm still talking about them months after I've had them. So, that was fun. And then after the rehearsal dinner, we're all kind of like figuring out where we were going to go after. Because I want to say like it ended, like everyone started leaving at like 10 and everyone was like, we don't want to go home. I guess that's my impression of everyone that I met that night and my family members. So my sister that I live with, her mom and stepdad and like a bunch of their friends were going out to this martini bar, and my like side of the family was just like, peace out, we're gonna go to the hotel bar. And I was like, I have never been to a martini bar before, let's go. So we went and we had chocolate martinis. Mine was mint chocolate, and I don't know what my sister had, but it was good because I tasted it and I thought it was delicious. And so the other cool part was the martini bar was attached to our hotel. So I just went back up to my room and went to bed. And I got pretty lit that night. I'm not going to lie. Waking up the next morning was very difficult. Thank goodness that the wedding wasn't until 5 p.m. And so I had plenty of time to recover. But I'm a pretty good drinker. I drank probably like 2 glasses of water before I even went to bed and whatnot. And so the next day was the day of the wedding. But this was also a very eventful day because there were kind of 2 options. I mean, there were multiple options, but there were only 2 options that I was considering doing that day that I wanted to do, which was go to the zoo or go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, this was a very difficult decision for me. And you're probably sitting there thinking, Sarah, there's no like other choice than going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I don't know if I've talked about this, but my other passion, other than music, is animals. I love animals. I love zoos. I like going to see all the creatures. My niece and my nephew and my sisters and like her family were going to the zoo. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll go like get some, niece-nephew time in. But then that little voice in the back of my head said, you need to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because that's you. I mean, me, not rock and roll, but me musically. The music major in me said you must go. And so I listened to the call. And so I had planned on going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by myself, basically, but I had talked my older brother, middle brother, John, into going with me because he had nothing better to do. And so we were going to go, But we hadn't planned a time. We were just going to go at any point because you just bought the tickets online and then showed up. And so that was the plan. And we were walking through, like, we met up with our sister, the one that I live with, that doesn't have any children. And we were, like, hanging out with her for a bit. And because she was going to the zoo with my other sister and the children. Because she's a animal person like me, but more committed. And so we're walking around, and I look up, and I see my cousin, who I never see. He is, like, so elusive. He's super fun. And, like, whenever we're together, we have a great time. But, like, we never see him because originally he's from California, and we'd only see him in the summertime when he'd come to our lake house. And then he moves around a bunch. Like, he lived in New York City forever, but I was in high school and I couldn't go visit him because, I was in high school. And when I was in college, he moved south. And so we never, like, hang out that much anymore. And so I saw him and I was like, Jackson! And he, like, whipped around, and we had, like, this moment where we, like, ran up to each other and hugged each other. And that was a very magical moment. A family bonding moment. And Jackson came with his parents and his new girlfriend that we had never met before. And I was so excited to meet her. Like, Jackson, I think the last time he brought a girl, like, to a family function was just, like, I was 12 or something. So real young, real embarrassing. Just don't ever introduce me to your girlfriends. Just as a general thing. I'm real awkward and I will make things weird. Anyway, so turns out they were also going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they were going at like 10:30. And so my brother and I are just like, let's go with them. And so we went with them and hung out with Jackson and his girlfriend and had a great time and got, like, caught up and stuff. And I was really mostly excited for this wedding so I could see Jackson, because none of my other cousins came for one reason or the other. They had to work, the COVID thing, like, too far to travel. So understandably, like, a bunch of them did not come, and that's fine. I'm cool with that. I see them more often, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but I haven't seen Jackson in, like, forever. So I was pumped to go to this wedding, to hang out with my best bud, Jackson. So we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it was basically me giving a tour to them. Because I am fresh off of, not now, but like a few months ago, I still had the memories of my history of rock class that I took in my final semester of college. And so I basically walked around and I was like, look at this. This is the such and such that had the such and such and was worn by the such and such. And so I was very excited to show off my college knowledge. Does that rhyme? College knowledge? I don't know. And I was able to kind of just refresh my memories about the history of rock and talk about the significance of some things. And there was it's more than just rock, obviously. There's like a bunch of different, Whitney Houston's in it. She's not rock. And Dolly Parton was in it. And she's not rock. So there was a bunch of other things that I could talk about as well that were not exclusively rock that I knew about, which was very fun and cool. And we walked through the gift shop and I was like, I'll get something. And then I was like, no. I never buy anything when I go, like when I travel. I spend exclusively all my money on food because that tells you more than anything about the area, is just what food is there. And so we finish up at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and then we go back to the hotel and I'm just chilling. We end up playing cards for like a little bit and then we're all getting ready for the actual wedding. And so I bought this really cute dress from Old Navy and like these nude high heels, and I did my makeup and I curled my hair and whatnot. And the actual hotel was the venue, so it was at the Hyatt Regency in Cleveland, and I believe it's kind of like reminded me of a mall, but like a fancy mall, like an old retro fancy mall. Like I felt like I was walking through it in like the 1920s. And so the first three floors, or maybe the first two floors, were like had shops in it and like restaurants and stuff. And then like the top three floors maybe had like hotel rooms. But the base floor didn't have any shops in it. I think they probably use it exclusively for venue space because that's where the wedding was. And there's no shops in like any of the window parts, but it's really beautiful because it like all opens up so you can like look over and like see what's going on like below your room and see like the event that's happening. So that happened, I think, after, so like the day after our wedding, there was another wedding. And so people were just like looking, like I was looking at the wedding that was happening the day after, and people at the wedding I was at, my brothers, were just standing above watching the wedding. It was kind of weird, but like kind of chill. It was kind of fun. It was like a public experience. So that was super cool. And like the venue was like long and it had stairs on either side, and one set of stairs was like a spirally kind of stair, and the other one was like layered? No. Platformed? I guess that would be like the appropriate thing, and it had these like little orby glass pieces like in the front panels of the stairs. It was beautiful. And there was like string lights over top. It was gorgeous. Like it was perfect. It was the amount of elegance that I expected from my brother when he decided to get married. Like as if he wasn't already perfect, getting married in this perfect place just like put him over the edge. So the wedding itself was beautiful. It was officiated by a friend, and my niece and nephew wore really cute outfits and walked down the aisle. I can't say that they were ring bearer and flower girl because they did not have either of those things. They literally just walked down the aisle and were cute. So that was a fun time. And then the reception happened, and there was like the cocktail. Actually, for most people, it's just the cocktail party and then the reception. But for us, it was the wedding, then the photos, then the cocktail party, then the reception. And the photos take a while because there's a lot of us as children. Because on our side, like my side, it's myself, my brother John, Tommy the groom, my sister Lindsay, and my sister Chelsea. And Chelsea is married and has children, and Tommy now is just married. So there's like quite a few on that side. But on Tommy's and Lindsay's and Chelsea's side, there's like a heap of stepkids and another half sibling. And so they have like so many siblings. It's kind of ridiculous. And so the pictures take a long time. But they came out beautiful, and I was really happy with them when they arrived in my inbox. And so after the pictures, we went to the cocktail party. I had like a few beers, and then the reception came, and we had dinner and we danced. I didn't really drink much at the wedding just because I was just like not into it. I was like, I drank so much the night before, and I want to be like fun at the barbecue tomorrow. So I kind of just chilled out, and it's not like I met that many new people. Like there were plenty of people there that I didn't know. But I didn't really care to meet anyone. You know what I mean? There was like, and weddings, what is this? Maybe when I have a wedding, if I have a wedding, I just don't like the separation between families, I guess. Like, I don't know. At my sister's wedding, they were kind of separated, so we didn't like mingle with any of her husband's family that much and or friends. And same at my brother's wedding. Like, I didn't really talk to any of Katie's family or friends or anyone. I just stuck with the status quo and the people that I know on my side of the venue, which was fine. I got to hang out with my cousin and his girlfriend, and we played card games again. And that's a big thing in our family, always playing cards. And so we kind of like, I stayed for until the end of the reception. And then I went to bed, and then I woke up the next morning, and we went to the barbecue at my brother's house. And that was when I got to really have, kid time, like my niece and nephew time. And I played like with their water guns, and we played other games. And, I just got to casually hang out with my family, which was good. It's not like all dressed up, even though I was wearing like a dress. But by then I was so freaking tired that I didn't want to do anything. I was just like, I'm going to find a chair and I'm going to chill out and be a person. There was a puppy there, which was kind of fun. I feel like that barbecue would have been way more fun if there was animals. Because then I could have just like plopped down next to a dog and just been chill. But instead, I played with my niece and nephew, which was equally as fun. And so that concludes the wedding weekend. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, sure. Wedding weekend, because on Sunday we drove back to New York, which was not as grumpy as the trip there, which was weird. Actually, we had a great time. My brother and I played lots of card games, the alphabet game, other games that you play in the car. And my dad was very jovial. And we got to, where is it? A town close to ours. And there's like two ways to get back to our town. One is like kind of windy, but short. The other one is less windy, but longer. And by then, my mom was just like so over driving. She was like, I just want to get home. And so my dad, being my dad, decides to take the longer route. And this is like a common thing that I grew up with, which is my dad taking shortcuts. They are never short. And and so he took the long way, and my mom was so angry. She was like grumbling in the front seat, and my brother and I were dying in the back seat because, kids love to torture their parents. And so to make it even worse, my dad puts his tour guide voice on, and he says, and over here are some trees. And he's like, have you been to this area before? Like, have you seen these trees? And so he's like pointing out these just random things like, oh, look, there's a lake right there. Like, I had a buddy that did, and I was like, oh my gosh, my mom was going to kill him. And so I said, if we don't get back in the same time that it would have taken us before, we're stopping for milkshakes. And I think that my dad took that to heart because we freaking zoomed down that road. And we got there like a minute before we were supposed to with the other way. So it was all fun. Just extending the trip, making it more memorable, I suppose. But my brother and I were dying in the back seat. So we had a great time. And there was also just a cop not doing anything. Like, he was just sitting on the side of the road reading the newspaper. It was like, my dad was freaking cruising. He should have, ticketed us for sure. But I don't think he cared that much. But we made it back to the house, safe and sound. Dogs were excited to see us. Everybody was happy. Good times. Now, oh good gosh, I talked about the wedding for forever, but there was like a lot that happened. The next topic I want to discuss is the reason why I stayed. So before I left for the wedding, like a few weeks, maybe a month before I left, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. And luckily, they caught it really, really early, so it would not have been an issue. And they had been going over what they wanted to do to treat it before I got there. And after I got there, they were still finalizing what the treatment was going to be for it. And so my dad came to me while I was there, and he said, whatever they decide to do, your mother is going to need help. And my dad works full time, and my brother also works a ton. And so the only other option is me. And there's a lot of responsibilities that had to be done. Our house is huge, and we've got lots of animals, and grocery shopping is hard. And so when they finally decided that surgery was going to be the best route to get rid of it, that was great. But also there's like a long recovery time after the surgery that she can't do anything. She can't feed the dogs. She can't go to the grocery store. She can't drive. She can't shower like without, being wrapped in plastic wrap. And so I was only supposed to stay 2 weeks after the wedding, and if I remember correctly, her surgery was probably around the time that I had scheduled to leave North Creek. And I think, again, if I remember correctly, the doctor said that she would be recovering for 2 to 3 weeks. And so that put me middle of July, like third week of July maybe. And I was like, okay, well, I'll stay until the third week of July, and then I'm leaving. And I kept saying that until I didn't. And so basically, I just got to hang out with my mom a lot. We went and did a bunch of cool stuff. We have this new spot on the Hudson River by our hunting camp that my dad kind of cleared out, and it's the perfect spot. It's like it's wonderful. It is one of the best secret spots ever for people like me who enjoy nature and the woods and swimming in lakes and rivers and stuff. It's this huge rock that kind of juts out into the river, and it's perfect for like laying out and getting some sun or swimming or hanging out with my dogs. And then above, they cleared out all the trees and they put a fire pit up there, and there was this massive tent that we had up there, and we hung up some hammocks and some solar lights, and so it was like super magical at night. And it was awesome. And I spent all summer perfecting that place for my mom. So it was a place that she loved to go to, and she could easily get there, and it is accessible to her at all times, at least in the summer. And so I got nice and freckled and tanned for those few weeks. And I also got to spend a ton of time with my best friend, which we'll get into. There's like a whole story I want to get into, and like a whole life lesson that I want to talk about with that. But we're going to stay focused on my mom at the moment. So she had her surgery, and then she was in recovery. And so we just casually spent every day on the river. And so we saw the rafters go by and the rail bikers go by, and I got to spend a lot of quality time with my dogs. I had been away for 4 months, and I was able to play with Remington and take great pictures of them. And those, I love spending time with my family, and I was able to, spend bonfire nights with my dad and my mom and my dad's family and my cousins, and just get to be a family. We had a recent loss right before I went home in our family, and it was really, really tough. And so it was great to see all of my family. I don't want to get emotional, but it was really great to spend time with them that was not limited by a job or, some other factor, going back to school. I was free all the time. So when I had the opportunity to hang out with one of my family members or a friend, I took it. They said, want to do something? And I said yes. And so the opportunities that I was able to have at home socially were incredible. And I would not trade them for the world. I was so glad that I got to spend all that time with my mom, because when is the next time I'm going to spend that much time with my mom? Just solely her. We would spend hours every day doing crossword puzzles, me swimming around, drinking White Claws, and we're just having good conversations where I learned a lot about my mom and who she is and what she wants and her fears and her dreams and, all of those things. So I was extremely happy to be home with her and the rest of my family because family is super important. Okay. It might not be important to you. And that really sucks because family to me is one of the most important things. And I try my very hardest to spend as much time with them as I can while I have them still here. So that is the update on ma mère. And I hope you guys can forgive me. I feel like I was doing the right thing by staying home. But also, I was able to hang out with my best friend Dylan and her children. But specifically Dylan, because this was the first time in our adult life that we had been able to do adult social fun activities. Because up until this point, since we were 19, she had twin girls who I love dearly, and then a boy right after, who again, love dearly. But she was a full-time mom for those. The girls will be 4 tomorrow, and so for the 4 years that she has been a mom, I lost her. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't lose her, but the things that we would have done as best friends, like going out to the bars and doing, adult things, kind of got put on hold because she had children. And I'm not saying that it's her fault or, things like that happen. I went to college. So, I also, was away and preoccupied. And I didn't mind, honestly. When I was at college, I had friends to go party with and drink with and have a good time with. So I didn't find myself missing that interaction when I got home. And I hung out with my best friend and her kids. And so now that I didn't have college and I didn't have access to my friends that I would go drinking with, I was bored. And I wasn't drinking and I wasn't going out drinking here in Memphis because I didn't know anyone and it was the pandemic. And, I was deprived of social interaction. And so this summer was incredible for my social life, at least in my hometown, because she finally was able to go out drinking with me on the weekends. And we went out every weekend. It was great. And she got to learn about herself and how much she could handle and what she was willing to do, to expand her horizons, who her friends were, because I'm not going to stay there forever. So she needed to make more friends that she could hang out with. And so I was able to bring her into a place that allowed her to kind of work on her insecurities and anxieties and make some friends. And also figure out what her favorite drink is, which took basically all summer. Turns out it's Corona. Who knew? But I was able to spend, this time with her will probably be my fondest memory of our friendship to date. By far, this summer is on the list of the best summers of my life. The best summer of my life. If not the top one, I'm hoping to top this one in the future. But this one was great because I wasn't working. I was just literally hanging out and just being chill. But, it was great because I found out a lot about myself and what I wanted as a person. And we'll get into it. I still have some stuff to cover before I talk about me and my learning about myself. And so, where was I? I have my whole thing planned out, and I'm just kind of talking. And I got to spend so much time with her kids as well because I was babysitting them. That was basically the only work that I was doing. Was when she went to work, I would watch her kids, which was awesome because I love her kids. And I'm getting so excited. being able to spend time with them and bond with them now that they're slightly older is awesome. And I would put them to bed and I would make them lunch and we'd go out and like hang out at the park. And that time is special to me because they are my family. And as like I have established, family is super important to me. And my best friend, she is my family. Her kids are my family. I treat them as if they are my own. And they are extremely important to me. They changed my perspective on kids. Before them, I would have never wanted kids. I didn't like them. I wanted to keep my distance. And then I met them and they changed my whole world. They became something that I can't imagine life without. Walking into their house and them running up to me and giving me hugs and kisses and telling me about their day and about the new toys that they have. And they have made my life better. They've made me more patient. They have made me smile at small things that, I would have never smiled at before. So being able to hang out with her kids has definitely been one of the better parts of my life and definitely one of the greater parts of being home for the extended period of time that I was. So that's what I was up to. And like, you now know the reason why I stayed, but why did I really stay for so long? So at that point, I could have left like the third week of July, but I didn't. My birthday was coming up. I'm an August 3rd baby. And so I wanted to stay for my birthday. And then I wanted to stay for something else. And then there's always things to be staying for, it felt like. And so that was the reason I gave myself. I said, oh, like you'll go home when all of the things that you want to go to are done and like over with. And then September rolled around and I was like, well, maybe I will leave like at the beginning of September. And then my cousin was like, you want to go to see the Jonas Brothers with me? And I was like, when are they playing? And she said, end of September. And I was like, well, I want to see the Jonas Brothers. And so it just kind of got out of control. Like it was one thing after the other of me giving myself an excuse to stay. And so I had to ask myself, why am I like not leaving? Why am I staying for as long as I have? And why can't I leave? Like what is stopping me from leaving when I am saying I'm leaving? And I think the reality of the situation was I was enjoying myself so much that the thought of leaving made me so sad. I was torn between how happy and comfortable I was feeling at home versus the potential and possibilities waiting for me here, and in my career that I wanted so badly. And it was really, really tough. Thinking about it now, I'm just like, oh man, I still feel that way. I didn't want to leave. I still don't want to leave. Like I'm already here, and like I still didn't want to leave. It was the greatest summer of my life to date. I was hanging out with my best friend who I hadn't truly had for 4 years. I was spending time with my family and my dogs and going out to dinner and going to the bar. And I kissed a lot of boys, which, for better or for worse, I did. But I was glad that I was doing it. I felt brave and confident in myself. And I don't feel that here. And I'm trying to get better about it. But I wanted to stay. I didn't want to leave. And like I said, the thought of leaving made me sad. So I didn't think about it. So I just kept pushing it off until I couldn't push it off anymore. When I got a job offer from a place in Memphis, and I was bummed. I was bummed that I had a job in Memphis waiting for me and I had to leave. But I had to. I mean, that was the final straw, which was I didn't have a job and now I do. So that's why I came back. And it was hard. It was hard leaving the people that I had grown so attached to in my social life, in my social circle, and leaving my family. I was more okay with my family just because I know I'm going to see them always and they will always love me and always be my friend. But the group of people that I learned to really adore and got to know really well, it's hard. It's hard to leave them because they're your new friends and you want to hang out with them and be buddies. But, you know, for me, career has always been the driving force of my life. Like, ever since I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to go to school. And I do great at school. And I'm going to go to college. And I'm going to do great at college. And I'm going to get this job that I want. Like, and I won't let anything stop me from doing great at whatever I'm doing. And I never thought about what I wanted other than that. Like, all of my wants and dreams have been, career oriented. And I've never thought about where I wanted to live. Who I wanted to be with. Do I want to be with my friends? Where are my friends living? Like, these are things that I never thought of. I just thought I was like, I'm going to move to Nashville. I'm going to get this job. And then I'm going to be successful. I didn't even think about life outside of work. Which is, something that I am now realizing is a bad thing. Slightly. I learned a lot about myself. The first thing that I learned is that I have the courage to do things that I would have not thought possible. Like, I became brave. I became bold this summer. And I think that's something that, for, like, the outsider, is something that I already had. But to me, I don't do anything that I'm not 100% confident in. And this summer, I did things that I was not 100% confident in. And so I felt really good that I was able, and I did them well. I did them well. There's just a lot of things that I did that I'm proud of that, doesn't seem like something you should be proud of, but I did them. And I did them with confidence and courage and bravery. And I love that I did those things, and I am proud. And the other thing I learned is that I can be I can't even say the word, unapologetically myself, and people will like me for it. I can be myself wherever I go, and I will find people that will like me for it. And I know this because in my small town, there are plenty of people that are super different from me, and they just are amazed at who I am. And that's great because I'm amazed at who other people are. I love meeting new people and seeing how their mind works and what they're into and what their hobbies are and what their music taste is. And so I learned a lot about myself this summer. I learned, what I want in my life. I mean, ideally, I'm going to put it out in the world so everyone knows. I want to live in North Creek, like right now. Obviously, I know that's not going to happen. Ideally, in my perfect world, I would be a professional songwriter who is getting regular cuts and lives in North Creek with my best friend, with her kids, close to my family, close to the people that I love, in the place that I love. I love it there. It is my all-time favorite place I've ever been. It is weird. It is quirky. It is beautiful. It is strange. It is all of the things that the small town movies are made of. And I am living it. I was living it. And that's what I want. I mean, that's the dream. I've never actually considered that in my life. And that is something that I came to terms with before I left. I said, okay, this is the deal. Like, just tell yourself what you want. What do you want? Because I've spent my whole life having people tell me what I want. You want to be a songwriter. You want to be a singer. You want to go to Nashville. You want to go to Memphis. You want to do this. You want to do this. No. I want to be a professional songwriter and live in my hometown. I love it. That's my dream. And how do I get there? I don't know. I'm working on it. But until then, I have my job. I have my cat, and I have my sister. And I have my apartment in Memphis. Now, what I do with that and what I do with my time is all leading me towards what I want. Hopefully. I'm working on it. So, if you guys have any doubts about your dreams and what you want, and it's okay to think about them. Because it took me like 5 years to figure out that what I actually want, I don't want. What I thought I wanted, it was not something that I wanted. Or maybe I did want it at one point, but it changed. Yeah, I think that's something that I didn't realize. I just thought I would have a dream and it would just become true. And it will. It's just it's not the fake dream that I told myself that I would be happy living in a city. That I would be happy working a job where I don't have any creative juices flowing. So I hope you guys learn from what I have learned from. Actually, I'm hoping that you can have a time in your life where you get to spend not worrying about money, not worrying about literally anything, just living your life. Because that's what I did. I lived it. I did things. I had the best time. I got to know myself. I got to know the people I was around. I got to know my dogs. I got to, my cat came with me. I learned, he had a great time. We have a screened-in porch at the house, and he loved it. I learned so much about who I am and what I want to be, and for that, I am so glad that I left Memphis and had that time. It's funny because they say when you leave your hometown, that's when you learn about yourself the most. I learned way more about myself when I went back. And it was enlightening. And I am happy to say that I am unapologetically myself and my wants are valid. And I will get there eventually. But until then, I will keep making my podcast so I can rant to you about country music and all of the things that I find important about country living and country life. And yeah. So that's all. God, that was a really deep podcast for the first season. No, for the first episode of season 2. I hope you guys are enjoying your day, your night, your morning, your afternoon, wherever the heck you are, whatever you're doing. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.